The crystalline station floated in the darkness of space, catching the light from distant stars. Inside, the great hall buzzed with nervous energy. Delegates from 47 different alien civilizations had gathered for a meeting that no one had expected. They weren't here to discuss war or trade routes or territorial disputes. They were here to talk about monuments, about remembering, about debts that could never truly be repaid. Ambassadors stood at the entrance, their long fingers drumming against the doorframe. As a Ev, their scales normally gleamed with confidence, but today they looked dull with worry. This meeting had been their idea, and they weren't sure how it would go. The delegate was the first to speak. Her name was Click, though humans had trouble pronouncing it properly. Her chitinous face plates trembled as she activated the holographic display. An image appeared above the center table. It showed a human man with tired eyes and a crooked smile, wearing a faded uniform jacket. "This is Captain," Click said, her translator making her voice sound almost musical. 23 years ago, he was piloting a cargo freighter through our system. He was delivering medical supplies to a mining colony. Nothing special, just another job. She paused, her plates clicking together in what humans would recognize as grief. Then our detection systems failed. We didn't see the asteroid until it was too late. It was going to hit our capital city. 3 billion would have died in seconds, but Captain saw it. His freighter had old military-grade sensors. He saw the asteroid and he saw our world below it. The hologram changed, showing a battered freighter ship moving toward a massive space rock. He positioned his ship between the asteroid and our world. He fired every thruster he had, trying to push it off course. It worked. The asteroid missed our planet by 800 kilometers, but his engines failed. He died in the explosion. We tried to reach him, tried to save him, but we were too slow. Click's voice cracked through the translator. "We have no grave to visit, no place to take our children when we want to teach them about the stranger who gave everything for people he never met. His family on Earth cannot afford a proper monument. We have tried to send them money, but they refuse it. They say they don't want charity." She sat down, and the room filled with a heavy silence. Then another delegate stood. This one was, her body rippling with the blue bioluminescence of deep sadness. Her species lived underwater, and she wore a specialized suit filled with liquid to survive in the station's atmosphere. "Commander Sarah," she said simply, projecting another image. A dark-skinned woman with clever eyes and hair pulled back in tight braids. "The quantum plague came from nowhere. Our scientists couldn't understand it. It was breaking down matter at the molecular level. It spread across our oceans in days. We were dying by the millions." The light pulsed faster. Commander was on a research station in our system. She figured out the plague wasn't natural. It was a weapon, ancient, left over from a war so old we had forgotten it existed. She found a way to neutralize it, but someone had to deploy the countermeasure manually. Someone had to swim into the heart of the plague with a device that would kill them as surely as it saved us. She volunteered. She said she was the only one who knew the technical details well enough to make adjustments if something went wrong. She saved 3 billion. We found her body 3 days later. The plague had dissolved her suit, but she had completed her mission. More stories followed. The told of Dr. James Park, who worked 36 hours straight to decode their biology when a virus threatened to make them extinct. He solved it with 2 hours to spare, then died of heart failure at his workstation. The spoke of engineer Tom Reeves, who sealed a reactor breach with his bare hands, saving a station full of alien refugees. The remembered doctor, who taught them agriculture when their world was dying, staying behind when famine came rather than taking the last seat on an evacuation ship. 73 names, 73 humans who had died saving alien civilizations. Many were military, but many more were civilians. Freighter captains and scientists and engineers and doctors. Some were famous on Earth, but most had been forgotten. Their families were too poor to maintain monuments. Some didn't even have graves. Ambassador finally stood, their scales now glowing with determination. They were old, even by Eth standards, and they had seen much in their 3 centuries of life, but they had never seen anything like humanity. "We are here because we all share something," said, their deep voice carrying across the hall. "We are alive because humans died for us. Our children exist because humans gave up their futures. We are prosperous now. Our economies are strong. Our people are healthy. And we achieved all of this because humans made sacrifices they didn't have to make." They gestured to the images still floating above the table, face after face of humans who would never see home again. Earth is struggling. They joined the galactic community only 40 years ago. Their economy is still adapting. They are not poor, but they are not wealthy. And their heroes, our saviors, are being forgotten. This is not acceptable. This is not honorable. This is not right. The delegate clicked her agreement. So did dozens of others, but a few looked uncertain. A representative raised a tentacle-like appendage. "We want to honor them, but how? We cannot simply give Earth money. They are proud. They refuse charity," as Click said. "And even if they accepted, how do we build monuments that mean something? Our cultures are different. What if we honor them in ways that humans find insulting?" It was a good question. The room fell into thoughtful silence. A spoke up, their crystalline body chiming softly. "My people have studied human culture extensively. Humans are particular about how they remember their dead. The memorials must be respectful of human customs. They must involve the families. They must tell the true story, not some idealized version." "Then we need human help," said the delegate. "We need someone who understands both our gratitude and their culture. Someone who can bridge the gap between our desire to honor and their need to maintain dignity." Had been waiting for this moment. "I have researched this. There is a human doctor. She is an expert in memorial architecture and the sociology of remembrance. She has written extensively about how humans honor their heroes and their dead. She is perfect for this task." "Will she help us?" asked Click. "I don't know," admitted, "but we must ask, we must try." The vote was called. Every delegation raised their appendages, tentacles, limbs, or glowing lights in agreement. The Memorial Fund was established that day, with contributions from every civilization that humanity had saved. The total amount was staggering, enough to build monuments that would last. But money was the easy part. The hard part was still ahead. Left the station that same day, traveling toward Earth with a small entourage of alien dignitaries. They carried with them detailed files on all 73 humans who had died saving alien worlds. They carried holographic presentations and financial statements and carefully worded proposals. But most importantly, they carried hope. Hope that they could finally repay a debt that felt unpayable. Hope that they could make sure these heroes, these strange, wonderful humans who had saved people they barely knew, would never be forgotten. The ship entered Earth's solar system 3 weeks later, looked out at the blue-green planet and thought about all the humans who had left it, never to return. They thought about families who had lost fathers and mothers and children to the stars. They thought about graves that didn't exist and monuments that crumbled from neglect. "We will make this right," whispered to themselves. "We will remember them all." The ship descended toward Earth, carrying with it the gratitude of 47 civilizations and the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever. Doctor was having a terrible day. Her office at the university was cramped and cold because the heating system had failed again. Her computer kept crashing because the department couldn't afford new equipment. And she had just finished reviewing 20 grant applications that she knew would all be rejected because there simply wasn't any money. She was an expert in memorial architecture, which meant she studied how humans built monuments to remember important people and events. She had written books about it, given lectures across Earth, and consulted on dozens of projects. But expertise didn't pay well when governments were cutting budgets and memorial sites were falling apart from lack of maintenance. Her latest project was documenting forgotten war memorials in Asia, monuments to soldiers who had died defending Earth during the Unification Wars before humanity joined the galactic community. Many were crumbling. Some had already collapsed. The families couldn't afford upkeep, and the government said there were more important priorities. Was writing a grant proposal to save just 3 monuments when her secretary knocked on the door. "Doctor, there are some people here to see you. They say it's urgent." "Tell them to make an appointment," said without looking up. "I'm buried in work." Her secretary's voice sounded strange. "I think you should see them. They're not exactly people." Looked up. Her secretary's eyes were wide with excitement and nervousness. "What do you mean?" "Just come look." Followed her secretary to the department's reception area and stopped dead. Standing in the middle of the room were 6 aliens. A tall reptilian eth with gleaming scales, a with chitinous plates and too many eyes, a floating that looked like living crystal, 3 others she didn't immediately recognize. They were trying very hard not to touch anything, clearly uncomfortable in the cramped human space. The eth stepped forward and bowed in the human style, though it looked awkward with their body structure. "Doctor, I am ambassador of the eth people. We have traveled far to speak with you. It is a matter of great importance." His mind raced. She had never met aliens in person before, though she had seen them on broadcasts. "I'm honored, ambassador, but I'm just a professor. If you need to speak with someone from the government—" "We need to speak with you specifically," interrupted gently. "It is about monuments, about remembering the dead, about honoring heroes who have been forgotten." Felt her heart skip. "Come to my office, please." They barely fit. They had to float near the ceiling. They had to fold her legs at uncomfortable angles. But they all managed to squeeze in and activated a holographic display from a small device. Images appeared in the air. Humans in various uniforms and civilian clothes. Names and dates and locations. "These are 73 humans who died saving alien civilization," said. "They saved my people. They saved thee and dozens of others. They died as heroes, but many of their families cannot afford proper monuments. Some have no memorials at all. This is not acceptable to us." Stared at the faces. She recognized a few names from historical databases, but many were completely unknown to her. "We have established the Memorial Fund," continued. "We wish to build monuments for all of these heroes, but we cannot do this alone. We need someone who understands human culture and memorial traditions. We need someone who can work with the families and ensure the monuments are appropriate and respectful. We need you." Sat down slowly. "You want to hire me to design 73 memorial projects?" "Yes." "That would take years, decades maybe." "We understand, we are patient, and the budget is unlimited." Laughed a sharp bitter sound. "Nothing has an unlimited budget." The delegate leaned forward. "Doctor, we are alive because humans died for us. Our children exist because humans sacrificed everything. We are prosperous now. We have more resources than we could spend in 100 lifetimes. For this project, there is no budget limit. You may design whatever is appropriate and we will build it." Looked at the faces in the hologram again. Young and old, men and women, different ethnicities and backgrounds. Heroes that nobody remembered. "I've seen how alien benefactors work," she said carefully. "You mean well, but sometimes you don't understand human culture. You build things that look impressive but feel wrong. I've consulted on 3 projects where alien governments tried to honor human achievements, and all 3 were disasters. The humans involved felt patronized." Scales rippled in what she had learned was acknowledgement. "This is why we need you. We do not want to make mistakes. We want to honor these humans properly in ways that would make their families proud. We will give you complete creative control. The families must be involved in every design. If they are not happy, we will rebuild until they are." studied the ambassador's face, trying to read alien body language. Why? Why does this matter so much to you? Because debt must be honored, said simply. And because we have learned something about humanity that troubles us. Many of these heroes died in situations that were preventable. Captain's freighter had failing engines because Earth cannot afford proper maintenance on civilian vessels. Dr. James Park worked himself to death because there were no other trained available. Commander volunteered for a suicide mission because her equipment was insufficient for remote deployment. The ambassador's scales darkened. We prosper because humans died for us, but humans died in part because your civilization does not value them enough to protect them properly. This must change. The monuments are not just about remembering the dead. They are about honoring the living, about ensuring future heroes have the support they need. Felt something shift in her chest. She had spent years documenting forgotten monuments and writing grant proposals that went nowhere. She had watched memorial sites crumble and families struggle to maintain simple graves. And now, these aliens were offering to do what humanity should have done itself. I want complete creative control, she said. No alien government gets to overrule my designs or the family's wishes. Agreed. I want to involve Earth's best artists and architects. I'm not doing this alone. We will fund whatever team you need. And I want to start with his story first. If we can do his memorial properly, if his family approves, then I'll consider the rest. Scales brightened. Captain was the first hero Click mentioned when we began this project. It is fitting that he should be the first memorial. When can you travel to Prime? Give me 2 weeks to clear my schedule and read everything you have on. And I want to meet his family first, here on Earth. Of course. They worked out details for another hour. Would be paid a salary that made her university stipend look like pocket change. She would have access to transportation, research materials, translation services, whatever she needed. The aliens were serious about this in a way that human governments never seem to be about anything. As they were leaving, the delegate turned back. Doctor, thank you, saved my family personally. I was a young child in the capital city when the asteroid came. He gave me a life. Now perhaps we can give him the honor he deserves. After they left, sat in her office for a long time, looking at the holographic files they had left her. 73 faces, 73 stories, 73 chances to make things right. She pulled up Sci's file and began to read. Born in Singapore, raised in Vancouver, trained as a civilian pilot. Worked cargo routes across 3 systems. Loved bad jokes and collected antique paper maps. Had a wife and daughter on Earth. Died at 41 years old, pushing an asteroid away from a planet he had never visited before. His last recorded transmission was simple: get everyone to shelter. I'll handle this. Wiped her eyes and began making notes. This was going to be the most important work of her life. She was going to make sure, and all the others like him, were never forgotten again. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Met with Sci's family, his elderly mother and his daughter Min, who was now 19. They were polite but wary, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Min especially seemed angry. Why now? She demanded when they met at a small restaurant in Seattle. Dad died 23 years ago. Nobody cared then. The government sent a form letter. His company gave us 3 months of his salary. That was it. And now aliens show up wanting to build monuments. Where was this when we needed it? Where was this when Mom was working 3 jobs to keep us housed? Didn't have a good answer. She just listened as Min talked about her father, the man she barely remembered. How he used to call from space and tell her jokes. How he sent her drawings on napkins. How he promised he'd be home for her 3rd birthday but never made it. I don't want some huge statue that makes him look like a god, Min said, her voice breaking. He was just Dad. He was a person. He liked dumb action movies and burned toast and couldn't sing to save his life. That's who I want to remember. Then that's who we'll show, promised. They traveled to Prime a month later. Min's grandmother, and a small team of human artists and historians. They greeted them with elaborate ceremony, which made Min even more uncomfortable. Click showed them what they had already built. A massive crystalline tower, 300 meters tall, gleaming with alien aesthetic beauty. It was impressive. It was spectacular. It was wrong. Saw Min's face and knew this wouldn't work. The tower was about gratitude, not about. It was alien architecture celebrating a human sacrifice, but it didn't capture who the man actually was. That night sat with Click and explained as gently as she could. The delegate was devastated at first, thinking she had failed. But as described what's family actually needed, Click began to understand. It should not be about how we feel, Click said slowly. It should be about who he was. Yes. Can we still keep the tower? It means something to my people. Of course, but let's build something else at its base, something human, something that would make Min recognize her father. They worked for weeks, brought in sculptors and landscapers and historians. They interviewed everyone who had known. They recovered old photos and videos. They found the napkin drawings he had sent to Min, carefully preserved by his widow. The new design kept the crystalline tower as a beacon, visible for kilometers. But at its base, they created something intimate and human. A bronze statue of life-sized, wearing his worn freighter captain's jacket. He wasn't posed heroically with his chin up and chest out. He was standing naturally, one hand in his pocket, looking up at the sky with a slight smile, the way his family said he always did when planning a route. Around the statue, they planted a garden using earth plants that could survive in its atmosphere. Oak trees from Vancouver where he grew up. Singapore orchids for his birthplace. Bamboo because he said it reminded him of flexibility in difficult situations. The garden would be a small piece of earth on an alien world, a home for the man who would never return to his real home. They added their own touch. Around the garden's border they placed crystal markers with last words engraved in both English and script. Get everyone to shelter. I'll handle this. But they didn't make it grand. They made it simple, factual, the way had said it. The dedication ceremony was small. Just his family, some dignitaries, his team, and a few elderly who had been in the capital city that day 23 years ago. Min stood in front of the statue for a long time. She reached out and touched the bronze hand, the one in the pocket, and she started crying. Not sad crying, though there was sadness in it. It was the crying of someone who had carried grief alone for years and finally had a place to put it down. That's him, she whispered. That's really him, that's my dad. Her grandmother held her while she cried, and the delegates stood at a respectful distance, their plates clicking softly in grief and gratitude. Later, a young child approached the statue, carrying a crystal flower, a traditional memorial offering. She placed it carefully at the base, then looked up at the bronze face. "Thank you for saving my grandmother," the child said in careful English. Then she looked at Min. "Your father was very brave." Min knelt down to the child's level. "Thank you. He would have liked knowing he helped your family." News of the memorial spread quickly across Earth. Human media covered it extensively, and suddenly was receiving messages from dozens of families. Other families of forgotten heroes, hoping she could do for them what she had done for them. She met with as many as she could. Each family had the same mixture of grief and anger. Grief for their lost loved ones, anger that it had taken aliens to give them proper recognition. The ambassador contacted her after the memorial dedication. "It is perfect," they said. "This is exactly what we hoped for. Will you continue? Will you help us honor the others?" Looked at the files on her desk. 72 more faces, 72 more stories, 72 more families that deserved this. "Yes," she said, "but I need to talk to you about something I've discovered." She shared her research with and the other alien delegates in a video conference. The pattern she had found in the heroes' deaths, the preventable failures, the lack of support. I've documented it all, said, her voice hard. Captain's engines failed because civilian freighters don't get proper maintenance funding. Dr. Park worked alone because xenobiology was underfunded and understaffed. Commander used 20-year-old equipment because newer technology was too expensive. Engineer Reeves sealed that reactor breach with his hands because the station couldn't afford proper safety equipment. These people died saving you, yes. But they died, in part, because humanity didn't value them enough to protect them. The aliens were silent for a long moment. Then scales brightened. This confirms what we suspected. Doctor, the Memorial Fund is not just about honoring the dead. It is about ensuring the living are protected. We wish to expand the project. Monuments, yes, but also institutions, training programs, equipment funds, scholarships. We want to build living monuments that prevent future tragedies. Felt hope kindle in her chest, fragile and bright. Earth's government won't like that. They'll call it alien interference. They'll say it's embarrassing. Let them be embarrassed, said Click, her voice sharp. We are not embarrassed to repay our debts. Are they embarrassed to receive what they should have provided themselves? The meeting ended with plans for a much larger project. Not just 73 monuments, but institutions named for each hero. The Academy for Civilian Pilots, the Sarah Emergency Response Center, the James Park Institute of Xenobiology, each one funded by the aliens that civilization had saved, each one ensuring future humans would have the support they needed. But knew there would be resistance. She knew Earth's pride would be wounded. She knew this was going to get complicated. She looked at the faces on her screen and made a decision. She would fight for this. She would fight for the families and for the heroes and for all the future humans who might need help. Let's make sure no one is forgotten again, she said. And somewhere on Prime, in a garden full of Earth plants, a bronze statue looked up at alien stars and seemed to smile. The backlash came faster than expected. 3 days after the announcement of the expanded memorial project, Earth's Global Council called an emergency session. Politicians filled the screens with angry speeches about alien interference and wounded pride. Senator was the loudest. He stood at the council podium, his face red with indignation, and ranted about how the Alien Memorial Fund was an insult to human sovereignty. They come here offering charity for people who died protecting them, shouted. They act like we can't take care of our own heroes. This is embarrassing. This makes us look weak and poor in front of the entire galaxy. We should reject these monuments and tell the aliens to keep their money. Watched the broadcast from her hotel room in Geneva and felt her blood pressure rising. She had been invited to testify before the council the next day, and she was already preparing her arguments. But speech made her angrier than she had been in years. Her phone rang. It was Ambassador. I am watching the broadcast, the ambassador said. This senator seems very angry. He's an idiot, said flatly. He's more worried about Earth's pride than about honoring the people who actually saved lives. Will the council reject our offer? They might try, but they're going to have to explain that to the families first, and I don't think that will go well for them. The next day, stood before the Global Council in the same chamber where humanity had first negotiated its entry into the galactic community. It was designed to be impressive, with high ceilings and marble floors and the flags of every Earth nation. But right now, it just felt cold. Senator was already speaking when she arrived, his voice echoing through the chamber. These aliens saved by our heroes should be grateful, not patronizing. We don't need their charity. Earth can take care of its own. Waited for her turn to speak, watching the council members. Some looked uncomfortable. Others nodded along with. A few looked angry, but she couldn't tell who they were angry at. Finally, the council chair called her name. Walked to the podium and looked out at the assembled politicians. She didn't have prepared remarks. She had something better. My name is Doctor. I'm an expert in memorial architecture, and I've been hired by the Memorial Fund to design monuments for 73 humans who died saving alien civilizations. I've heard a lot today about pride and sovereignty, and how these memorials are somehow an insult to Earth. So let me tell you about. She activated the holographic display and showed's face. Captain was 41 years old when he died. He was a civilian freighter pilot hauling cargo between systems. He wasn't military. He wasn't a diplomat. He was just a working man trying to make a living. And when he saw an asteroid about to kill 3 billion, he didn't hesitate. He positioned his freighter to push it off course, knowing his engines might fail. They did fail. He died. Paused, looking directly at Senator. His company gave his family 3 months of his salary. The government sent a form letter. His widow worked 3 jobs to keep her daughter fed. His freighter had failing engines because there wasn't enough funding for civilian ship maintenance. He died saving billions, and his family struggled to pay rent. Tell me, Senator, where was Earth's pride then? His face went even redder, but he didn't respond. Continued. The people watched a stranger die to save them. They lived and prospered because of his sacrifice. And now they want to honor him properly to give his family what Earth should have given them 23 years ago. You call that charity? You call that embarrassing? I call it decency. I call it honoring a debt. She showed more faces. Commander, Dr. Park. Engineer Reeves. Doctor, each one with a story of heroism and sacrifice, and each one with a story of neglect afterward. These aliens aren't trying to make us look weak, said, her voice rising. They're trying to do what we failed to do. They're trying to make sure these heroes are remembered and honored. And yes, they're also trying to make sure future heroes have the support they need. The Academy will train civilian pilots and provide proper ship maintenance funding. The center will ensure emergency responders have the equipment they need. The Park Institute will train so no one has to work themselves to death alone. She gestured to the council members. You want to reject this? Fine. But you're going to have to look the families in the eye and explain why Earth's pride is more important than their loved ones being remembered. You're going to have to tell them that monuments and training programs and scholarships are somehow insulting. Good luck with that. Step back from the podium. The chamber was silent. Then a voice spoke up from the back. Doctor, I have a question. Turned, a younger council member, someone she didn't recognize, stood up. Yes. My name is council member. My uncle was Dr. James Park. I was 10 when he died. I'd like to know more about the Park Institute. Felt her throat tighten. They want to establish a research institute in his name. It will focus on xenobiology and fields your uncle pioneered. It will be jointly run by human and alien scientists, and it will have funding that Dr. Park never had access to. The goal is to make sure no scientist has to work alone like he did. Nodded slowly. My family would be honored. Senator, you said this is charity, but my uncle died because he didn't have help. If this institute can prevent other scientists from dying the same way, how is that charity? How is that anything but practical and necessary? More council members began asking questions. Answered each one, describing the plans for different monuments and institutions. She showed them the memorial on Prime, and several council members were visibly moved by the simple bronze statue and earth garden. Senator tried to regain control. This is still alien interference in human affairs. They're using money to influence our society. They're using money to honor our heroes, shot back. Something we should have done ourselves. Ambassador had been watching the session from a private feed. Now they requested permission to address the council directly. The chair, looking uncertain, agreed. Scaled face appeared on the main screen, transmitted from their ship in orbit. Members of the Global Council, the ambassador said, their deep voice calm and measured. I have heard your concerns about interference and charity. Let me be clear. This is not charity. This is debt. Your heroes died for our children. We prosper because of their sacrifice. The embarrassment would be accepting their deaths and doing nothing to honor them properly. The ambassador's scales darkened, a sign of deep emotion. You say we are interfering in human affairs. Perhaps we are. But we are doing what we wish humans had done for us if the situation were reversed. We are doing what any civilization with honor should do. If accepting this makes you uncomfortable, I apologize. But we cannot ignore our debt simply because it makes you feel bad. Stood again. So you admit you're trying to change our society. We are trying to make sure your heroes are valued, said. If that changes your society, then perhaps your society needs changing. The chamber erupted in argument. Some council members shouted agreement. Others demanded the ambassador be cut off, watched it all and realized something important. This wasn't going to be resolved in one meeting. This was going to be a long fight. The council chair finally restored order and called for a vote. Should Earth accept the memorial fund and allow the construction of monuments and institutions? The vote was close, but it passed. 63% in favor, 37% opposed. Earth would accept the memorials, but the debate would continue. Left the council chamber exhausted. Outside, she found Min waiting for her. I watched your testimony, Min said. Thank you for fighting for my dad and the others. It's not over, warned. There's going to be more resistance, more politicians complaining about alien money and wounded pride. Let them complain, Min said firmly. The memorial on Prime gave me my father back. It gave me a place to remember him. I don't care what Senator thinks. My dad died saving people, and now those people want to honor him. That's good enough for me. Hugged the younger woman and felt some of her exhaustion lift. This was why she was doing this. Not for politicians or pride, but for families like the who deserve to remember their loved ones properly. The next months were a whirlwind, and her team worked on memorial after memorial. Each one was unique, designed specifically for the hero and their family. Commander's memorial on VII was an underwater garden, since she had loved the ocean. It included a training center wherein humans learned emergency response together. Dr. Park's Institute opened on Prime, a sprawling research campus where scientists studied xenobiology in facilities that would have made Park weep with joy. Engineer Reeves got a memorial on the station he had saved, a simple plaque, and a fully funded safety equipment program named in his honor. Doctor's memorial was an agricultural center teaching sustainable farming across the galaxy, with her name in English and 10 alien languages. Each memorial included the families. Each design honored who the person actually was, not some idealized hero version. And each one included practical elements, institutions or programs that would help prevent future tragedies. The resistance continued. Senator and his allies complained constantly. They organized protests at memorial sites. They gave speeches about alien corruption and human weakness. But they were fighting against something more powerful than politics. They were fighting against gratitude. Alien tourists began visiting Earth specifically to see memorials and pay respects. Young would make pilgrimages to his childhood home in Vancouver. Students studied at the center and left offerings at her memorial. They sent yearly delegations to honor Dr. Park's family. And humans noticed. They noticed that aliens cared more about human heroes than some human politicians did. They noticed that alien civilizations,